All right, well, I guess we can go ahead and get started. I'm assuming, is there any public comment? We'll move on. So we'll start with our action items. You want to take over?
Good afternoon, Dr. Baker and committee members. Yeah, we have several action items. The first being our regular purchasing agenda. A number of common items in there to get us started going into the next school year here coming up pretty quickly. So I'll certainly address any particular questions anyone might have on any of the items in the purchasing agenda.
Before we make a motion, does anybody have any questions for Larry? Can I get a motion to support sending the purchasing agenda onto the full board?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. The Heart of West Michigan United Way grant. Could you let us know?
Yeah,
what
the
that's
next
with?
item is a grant from United Way. And I don't recall how much conversation took place at the board level, but the United Way has been
not
funding
much.
for a number of years a School of Hope program, and they decided within the last year that they were changing their focus on what they were funding and wanted to focus more on STEM type of programs, particularly in the middle school area. We just so happened at the time we were looking at acquiring this Discovery Education, Discovery Science curriculum, which is a computer-based technology platform. It was actually approved by the committee and the board, I think, back in March of this year. And the middle school cost of that Discovery program, the total cost was in the neighborhood of $750,000 over 6 years. The middle school cost of that was about $170,000. So United Way decided to give us $100,000 to help offset the cost of that middle school portion of that. So there is included in your packet what they call a memorandum of understanding for the grant. They're ready to fund it really immediately. So we just need this committee and the board's acceptance of the $100,000 grant. Now, we do have the ability, this is a one-year grant, we do have the ability to reapply for additional dollars next year, but the grant in front of us is just for the 17-18 school year. It's $100,000.
And this is district-wide for all middle school students?
The
Okay.
Discovery Ed is actually district-wide K through 12, and this is, district-wide for the middle school aged students, yes.
And would it continue to be the same amount on an annual basis, or once we make the initial
Don't
investment,
know.
would it be less? You don't know? Okay.
Yeah, don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions for Larry? Can I get a motion to approve the Heart of West Michigan United Way grant?
So moved.
Support.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. This is the fun one. So I met with Larry last week. I'm sure that we just did this like 2 or 3 years ago. Right, John? And it's like
Yeah, we have our operating millage expires December 31st of the current year. The operating millage are the 18 mills that we levy on non-homestead property. In order for us to receive full state funding, we need to levy this maximum 18 mills. What's expiring this year was an 8-year approval. We are asking this time it'd be a 10-year, which is the max we can go. We're asking the voters to approve 19 mills in the event that there are Headley rollbacks that would bring that below the 19 mills. The maximum we can levy is 18 mills. So even if it's 19 mills, it's approved. The maximum we can levy is 18 mills. That just provides us a cushion in case there's a number of Headley rollbacks that reduce that authorized levy in future years. Currently, we actually asked for 19 mills 8 years ago. Currently, because of Headley rollbacks, we're down to 18.67 mills. Again, we still levy 18 mils. If that drop below 18 mils, that's the max we could go would be 17 point whatever the case may be. So we think the 19 mils would be sufficient to get us through the 10-year time frame. Again, this is not a tax increase, it's just a renewal of our operating millage, and we need to do it or else we will not get our full state funding, which we obviously cannot risk. I think in past years, we'd gone out earlier, like in May. As you may recall, though, May of this year was the enhancement millage, which is what our focus was. We didn't want to put this on the May ballot. It really was too close to get on the August ballot, so this will be for the November ballot. Needs to get to the city clerk's office middle of August, so we need this committee to move it forward to the board for their approval at the August 7th board meeting. So that's what this
So does
resolution is.
Everyone understand what this millage is compared, because so when we get the state aid, so we send this 18 mil to the state and then they send it back to us. So this isn't really,
Actually, don't.
So
send
what
it.
we actually-
get it from the county. So I think one of the.
okay, I see, but it's still, when we get our per pupil aid, this is.
This is part of
This
that
is what
funding.
funds that per
Exactly,
pupil aid.
Exactly.
So if we don't get it, then we don't get the per
That's
pupil
exactly
aid.
right. The state does not make up the difference. So,
I had a question maybe, so this is November and we don't really have much choice, but can you, John, do you know what possible contested elections will be on the ballot in November?
Sure. Well, we know for sure Third Ward because there's only two people that are in the race. So Commissioner Lanier and a gentleman named Kent Boersma. So that one, and that's obviously the Third Ward. It's a very favorable ward and one that has been
Okay.
continuously supportive and overwhelmingly supportive of GRPS in recent elections. So Second Ward, it depends on the outcome of the primary. We'll see how that flushes out, but it could very well be that it's finished in August. If they get 50% plus one, game's over. And then First Ward, kind of the same thing. That one is a little bit more contested race between the three candidates. So I anticipate that one might actually go to a runoff. But depends on how the campaigns shape up. I know Kurt has the backing of many, the whole entire commission. But will that translate to 50% plus one? We don't know. And so it's potential that First Ward, Second and Third could in fact all be on going to November. We'll know a lot more here in 2 weeks. So, from a campaign standpoint, even purely informational campaign, which is what this campaign likely will be, this is not a new tax, and in fact, the average taxpayer and average voter is not paying this tax. This is going for people who have a second home or for businesses. And so the good news is that the voters that vote in November of a municipal election are typically super voters. They're very savvy. They understand what non-homestead means.
Okay.
And we will be making sure that they understand this is not new, that they are not paying this in most cases. In fact, we can even narrow down who may or may not be paying it. So, in fact, this was the very first campaign I worked on when I was hired by GRPS. So we still have all the materials, and it was, it was like 75% approval. So we're not going to take anything for granted. We're going to run it like a full campaign. I don't know if we'll do as much aggressive door-to-door. We might do that for the AVs because they're going to be the early and often voters. They'll probably be making up about 40% of the vote. But we'll have a full informational campaign rollout.
Okay, anybody else? So, going to get a motion to send this on to the full board.
So moved.
Support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. And finally, extension of purchase option on Pine Avenue property.
Yeah, a year ago, the board approved, you may recall, we had two property transactions a year ago, actually, in July, a year ago. One was the sale of Adam Street building. Is that the correct, Adam?
The park building.
Park building, which was the actual sale. The other was we wrote an option on the Pine Street building on the west side with the Kent County Land Bank. And the nature of that was they would acquire the property, and then Dwelling Place would buy, or would build using low-income housing tax credits, affordable housing on that site. The option was, at that time, was at the then appraised value of $295,000, and the option expires on July 31st, end of this month. We contacted the land bank, Dwelling Place, maybe 6 weeks ago, Ken? Asked them what their intention was to exercise the option or extension or what, and they just got back to us, I think, a week ago. While they got some funding through the income housing tax credits, they didn't get sufficient amounts to fully fund this project. So they asked for an extension to February 28th of 2018, give them some time to evaluate whether or not it'd be worthwhile. They can do another application to do by, I think, October 1st. And they want this extension to give them some time to evaluate whether or not they want to do that. So we believe it's in the best interest of the community that we extend this extension. The other change we'd make on it is we're going through the process now of reappraising our vacant buildings, including this property. And so instead of the $295,000, we will have the most current appraised value as the option price in this extension, if you would approve it. But it's good for the community, and I think it's good for GRPS too. So that's the nature of the extension on the option. We did include in the pack the actual option agreement that was signed last year. If you just wanted, for those who wanted to refresh their memories on what that was all about. So,
Any questions?
I do have one question, because I did see that it was noted that when it was mentioned in the packet about the reappraisal, it was saying that we are currently reappraising a number of properties. So the last committee meeting that we had, it was noted that there was going to be a purchase from a private entity for some of the district's property, and that it was at a price that was appraised a few years ago, and we kind of asked, would there be a new appraisal on that? Will a new appraisal also happen with that property now?
We've written a purchase order for appraisals on Pine, West Leonard, Beckwith, Kensington, and Alexander. Those are the vacant buildings or have potential to be. Alexander's a storage facility. Beckwith is being used for adult ed. But to get those current, just because they're the most likely, they should be back sometime late August. So we would have the new number to place into this option extension, and we will also have a new number to reevaluate West Leonard and determine if that should come back to this committee.
All right. Motion for the extension of the purchase option?
So moved.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right.
thank you.
Updates, Warm, Safe, and Dry, and the bond?
Warm, Safe, and Dry, there's 3 projects in progress. The one is Ridgemore, to reopen that as a Montessori building. That's well underway. We've run into a couple of hiccups with the existing air conditioning system, but it won't affect us getting in, and it will be fully functional by the time students arrive. Innovation Central, we're replacing the gymnasium roof. That will be done before school starts. And then in this building, we're building the offices on the 3rd floor. The construction industry is really busy right now. So we're in a bit of a delay because we lost our drywallers, and we have a challenge getting them back with their schedule. We are
I've
pushing
done
hard.
drywall, but I'm not licensed.
I
And
wouldn't
you
hire
don't
him.
have insurance.
You're not an approved
Yeah,
contractor,
and,
we've got the bakers.
The great thing, that when I do drywall, you can actually tell where the panels start and end really well. So that way you'll know if you need to open it up.
We're moving along, those projects are moving along. From the bond perspective, let's see, Buchanan has started. We are currently about a week behind because we found some buried materials from 50-plus years ago that we had to separate out as part of the excavation. As soon as the footings are back in the next week or so, the construction manager will reevaluate the schedule and we'll sit down and work out how we're going to make up the week. Our goal is to have the new classrooms, at least the two-story portion, open at spring break time, be able to move into those and start work in some of the existing buildings. So there's some critical nature of this, but we have time to make that up, and we believe we can make that up fairly easily. The museum, high school, the demolition and abatement is complete. We brought the main bid package to the last board meeting.
Right.
And that was authorized to move forward. We have one bid package item, and that's masonry, that we bid 3 times, trying to get bidders. The market is very busy. We are evaluating what we opened this afternoon, and if it passes our muster and evaluation, we're requesting that we can bring that straight to the August 7th board meeting to get that moving.
Sure.
That's acceptable. The other item with the museum school is we're working with the city on an easement for the lawn area along Washington Street to build a stairway ramp and not only a service entry, but a plaza entry for what the museum calls the yellow box. We won't start that till we have the legal paperwork in place between us and the city. Right now, Rockford Construction believes they can get done with the museum project by Memorial Day, which is good for us. It gives us the whole summer to move in and get situated.
Good.
The other projects are still in design. The two moving ahead are City and the university renovation, and then we're just starting work, planning work on Ottawa and Union.
All right. Great, thanks. You actually don't have anything else, right, on the agenda, unless somebody has an other. All right, well, I guess meeting is adjourned, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.